I like my food. I probably like my food a bit too much, to be honest. But I like to grow it, cook it, eat it. And I just want to show some of my friends and family and anyone who is interested what I've got up to this year and the sort of results that I've got, really. I grow loads and loads of food and we have a surplus, so I store it so I can eat seasonally, but I've also got food that I've grown for other harder, leaner times of the year. I sell it as well and I give it away for free. When I was a kid, I used to like watching Fearnley-Whittingstall's River Cottage, and the idea of living sustainably, living healthily and interacting with the environment that you're living in really appealed to me as a kid, and I kind of just do that sort of thing anyway. So I grow lots of my own food. I grow loads of vegetables. We have chickens and ducks and quail and all sorts of other things, and I like to go spear fishing and shooting and fishing and stuff like that as well. And it's all about great quality food, fresh, organic, sustainable, all those sorts of things. And by growing your own vegetables, you can really control what goes on it, what goes in it, how fresh it is. And of course, because I've done all the work, it's free, which is great. So if you want to make a meal, you can just walk up to the greenhouse or walk up to the vegetable patch and just get what you need. This is the layout for my greenhouses. I have two that go into the ground, this one here and a slightly bigger one up here. They're great for growing vegetables in. And then I have two that are slightly smaller and are sitting on paving stones. One here, which is under a tree, doesn't get a huge amount of light, so it's more of a storage greenhouse. And then another one up here. I think it's about 50 foot long or so, but about 10 foot wide. Nice and warm in here. What I'll do is I'll probably put tomatoes down this side, and then I'll put strings coming down off of ropes or off here, straight down, and I'll grow the tomatoes up there. What I'm planning on doing is having cucumbers up here, and then having tomatoes down the side, having peppers down there, down the middle, chili peppers and sweet peppers and things, and then a mixture of things down this side. Just all crumbles up. What I'm going to do, hopefully, is put black matting down. That will help stop any weeds. And then when I want to plant something, I'll just put a big cross in the black matting, peel it back, put the plant there, then fold it all back. So this is where I get the horse manure from. Horses, obviously. It builds up over the course of the sort of winter and spring months, and then we let it rot down. It all breaks up before we shift it with the tractor. I also have a huge supply of chicken manure, so I just end up shoveling it out and then shifting it, really. So I've got a bunch of ways of improving the quality of the soil, and then once I've done that, I make sure I've got all the seeds and it's all planned and set out for the year. And I generally start them off, depending on what they are, about February or March time in the house on the windowsills or in the conservatory. And then as they grow, I move them into pots, and then I move them into their final position in the greenhouse. Here are my tomatoes. These are Alicante, Moneymaker, Golden Sunrise, San Marzano, two types, Roma VF, which are looking really healthy. So I take the strongest tomatoes and then I plant them into pots. And put one plant in each pot, grow them bigger. They'll probably grow up there, I don't know, 5-6 weeks or so. Here we go. These are all San Marzanos, which are my sauce type, so I can make bottles of tomato ketchup. What have I got over here? And then these are most of them are my eating type, so yeah, they're really doing quite well, nice and healthy. Beefsteak tomato, Big Daddy tomato, Marmande, yellow stuffer, which is doing okay. and then some golden sunrise on the end, and these are tiger rudder. By mid-April, I've normally built up a pretty large workload for myself, and I start to wonder whether I've taken on a bit too much. So I break it down into chunks and I get one stage done at a time. I start in the greenhouse by preparing the soil on the right hand side, and then I cover it and I get the tomato plants in the ground, and then a bit later on, when I've cleared all the plants out of the greenhouse, or most of the plants out of the greenhouse, I get the left hand side done and I get the plants in. The tomatoes I tie up using a biodegradable twine, so I tie a very loose, like sliding loop around the base of the tomatoes, and then for the other plants I tend to use a bamboo cane, so I can tie the plants to the cane to keep them upright, but it also shows me where the base of the plant is if the foliage is really dense, so I know where to water, where to weed and all that sort of thing. But at this stage the tomatoes are really shooting up, and some of them have flowers already. Last year and this year I've spotted a toad in my greenhouse pretty much every month. Here I was just moving some black matting and then I spotted the toad, and it is a really big toad, so I'm hoping it's been eating all the slugs and the ants and things that it finds in the greenhouse. I was watering the greenhouse and as I was watering the melons I spotted something at the base. Something just caught my eye, and I spotted my resident toad just chilling at the base of the melons under all the leaves. So there's lots of springs up and down here, and the springs run out into a ditch that you can't really see, and we pump the water out of the ditch using the pump and up to the greenhouse and general use up there. The water's completely clean, and we have watercress and things growing in the ditch, and it's basically mineral water. It's really hard, but it's not chlorinated, so it's brilliant for plants and seedlings and all that sort of thing. To get the water out the ditch we have a pipe that's in here somewhere. Here's the end of the pipe in the ditch. There is a filter on the end, however the filter still allows quite a lot of sediment through, and there's loads of this soft sediment in the water, loads of it, so it does suck up quite a lot of that sediment in the water. This switch turns on the pump, which pumps the water out, and there's a whole system of pipes that we've rigged up so it can water all sorts of different things. But if you turn on that, you have water. There's quite a bit of sediment that does come up in the water sometimes, and that's probably good for the plants, but it means that we can't really rig up a watering system as it just gets blocked up with sediment. But by doing this way, if you wanted to, you could use plant food, tomato food, something, some sort of fertilizer, and add it to the watering cans, but we generally don't tend to, as I've put a lot of manure and other things in the ground already. The greenhouse at this time of the year is really taking shape, and it's exactly as I pictured it a long time ago when I was planning what I wanted to do. I've made it as little work for myself and as little maintenance as possible. So the black matting means I don't really have to do any weeding. All I have to do is water for a large amount of the plants. That's all I have to do. So I probably water every 2 or every 3 days in the evenings, and the only work that I have to do apart from that is side shooting the tomatoes and turning them around the strings. This video has been an introduction into how I go about growing some of my food and how my setup works. If you've enjoyed it, please let me know. If you have any advice or tips on growing vegetables in a greenhouse, again, please let me know. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. I'll try and make a part 2 showing how it unfolds and the results that I get this year. Thank you for watching.